Well, hello, truth seekers. I'm Brewella. I wanted to stop in and thank you for watching part 1 of the moon landing conspiracy. You made it a night to remember. Now, Papa Joey and Keith are back for part 2, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. More theories, more evidence, and more questions that'll keep you up at night. As for me, you'll be seeing a lot more of me in future episodes. I'll be your digital barmaid of knowledge, serving up answers one pint at a time. And soon, Papa Joey and Keith will reveal their secret book of Anns, the one that holds all the wild mysteries of the universe, one beer and one story at a time. But that's for later. Right now, crack open a cold one and join the guys for part 2 of the moon landing conspiracy. The truth is still on tap.
So folks, if you have more questions, I would suggest you do something, some deeper digging yourself. But for the context of this episode, I think we'll move on to the other side now.
Now we get to be skeptical.
That's what we do best.
Yeah. And we'll see if these are really unexplainable or if they have a logical explanation to them. So, spoiler alert, NASA and scientists have pretty much answered all these questions pretty thoroughly.
Warning, viewer listener discretion is advised. The majority of the content of this program is not fact check and it is highly advised that it not be used for teaching your children from said content, other than making an example out of the hosts of what they should not grow up to be. Remember this, it's the beer talking.
Welcome to the truth about beer.
All the crap that we're interested in.
Searching
for the truth. Exploring the unexplained. Investigating the paranormal. Subscribe now.
Hit the alert
button so you don't miss an episode.
Ow!
Welcome to the truth about
beer.
And
So let's take off our tinfoil hats, which I forgot to bring over here again, but I'll pull off my hat, and let's debunk some of the evidence, for the moon landing being real. And we'll see, we'll debunk the evidence against it, and we'll bring forth the evidence that says we did, in fact, go to the moon. That's a better way to say that, I think.
I like that.
Yeah, I think so. And let's figure out if possibly this really did happen.
All right. Now let's put on our science hats.
Damn.
I
don't have those hats either.
Where did I must have left mine at when I graduated from college. I threw it in the air when I graduated.
Yeah, I did too.
No. I did graduate from high school, though. And anyway, so let's put those science hats on and look at why the moon landings are most certainly not a hoax. For each claim we just discussed. Well, except for the last ones that I talked about. So for now. Anyway, there are well-documented explanations or evidence that refute it. So NASA engineers and independent experts have addressed these issues over the years. And a lot of it is actually pretty straightforward once you understand the context. Okay. And I'll have to agree with that. Yeah. So point by point, let's debunk the conspiracy claims.
Let's do it.
So first up, the waving flag. So the truth is the flag wasn't waving due to the wind. It only moved while the astronauts were planning it. So due to the momentum imparted by them, handling the pole and twisting it and all that. And the other thing that was that there was a pole that went
help keep it vertical.
Yeah, to keep it
horizontally.
Yeah, horizontally. Yeah. And as Neil tried to pull that. It was a telescoping type of a tube, and it got stuck. It wouldn't pull all the way out. So it kind of bunched the flag up to give it that ripple look. So that wasn't supposed to be that way. So that was part of the problem. And then, of course, I'm trying to get the flag into the ground. And you and I watched that video earlier today,
we did.
which was the whole time they were on the moon's surface. And would you say they worked on that for a good 5 or so minutes to try to get that thing to
stick in the ground
and stay there?
Yeah.
So that's, you wiggle that pole and the flag's gonna move. So it wasn't the wind.
So when you and I were watching that video earlier, as it was a 3-hour long video, right? So as we kept going, we kept kind of fast forwarding through the video. We noticed that after the flag was set, it really didn't move from that position at all.
No, it didn't. So so it was just the initial sticking it in the ground and letting it settle, and it was stationary. So so there's nowhere to make it billow on the moon, but also no air resistance to quickly dampen the motion. So it flapped for a little bit, but once it got to where it stayed static, it stayed static, like you just said. So Mythbusters actually tested this. They put a flag in a vacuum chamber and moved it, and guess what? It flapped vigorously in a vacuum due to the inertia, exactly as seen on the moon. So a flag can appear to wave in a vacuum if you shake the pole. So in short, anyway, the waving flag is perfectly consistent with real moon environment and a partially extended support rod. So there's no wind needed for that to happen.
That's a great example of how our Earth brains could misinterpret something unfamiliar. No wind, just basic physics. Once you know about the horizontal rod, it makes sense, right? And 5 of the 6 Apollo flags, I did not know this either, were even photographs still standing decades later, casting shadows by satellites. I didn't know that. Did you know that?
No.
I did know that the Apollo 11 flag fell off. We talked about that after they took off again. But I'm sure by now that the sun's shining brightly on the moon as it does, it's probably there's probably no red, white, and blue left on the flag. I'm sure it's probably all white. So, but hey, the flag behavior is explained without invoking Hollywood fans here. So. So now on to the missing stars, right? This one is, I guess it would be like a classic photography lesson here, So it has to do with exposure settings, right? So the Apollo astronauts are shooting with a camera set for a bright daylight condition. So the surface under the moon, other than the lunar sun, they're white suits and the lunar module reflecting sunlight. The moon's surface in the sunlight is extremely bright, as we saw it in that video we watched, right? So to capture it properly, they had to adjust the shutter speed. They had to go to a faster shutter speed and use smaller apertures to let less light in, right? So meaning that a lot of the light, meaning not much of the light, opposite, can get in from faint sources, meaning stars, right? So you weren't letting that extra light in to be seen on the camera. So many relatively dim points of light simply didn't register on the film because the camera exposure was too short to detect them, which makes sense. So it's kind of like, stepping out on the porch at night and turning on bright light. Your eyes, in this case, the camera, is going to adjust to the light and you won't see the stars behind it. You see that constantly, right? It takes a while. You have to be, that's why we have issues in a lot of these, urban areas, right? Seeing the stars because you have all that light pollution. You just can't adjust to it, but you go somewhere that doesn't, the Milky Way is lit up like a freaking Christmas tree. So the astronauts did say they couldn't even see the stars, with their eyes while they were facing the sunlight, because of the glare from the landscape and their visors, it overwhelmed their vision. So if they were in a shadow and they let their eyes adjust or during the flight in darkness, those stars would be visible to them at that point. But of course, not in the photos. Oh, why would it, right?
Yeah.
But if NASA were faking it on set, ironically, it would have been easier to just kind of paint a few stars in there at random, you know, but yet no stars appear at all. So interesting. Even today, if you take a fast exposed photo at night, focus on a brightly lit foreground, you get a black sky with no stars. It's normal. So that idea is essentially debunked. And it's interesting because every time I try to take a picture of the moon with my iPhone, right?
Yeah.
I see the moon, but I don't see any stars.
Yeah,
you don't see nothing.
That's true.
So interesting.
Yeah. And I would add to that though. I mean, if you look at a full moon at night, I mean, on a full moon, you know, sometimes that moon is super, super bright, can actually hurt your eyes. So
yeah, imagine
standing on the surface of the moon as an astronaut with all that light being reflected, you know, yeah, it would be hard to see the stars. It just chokes me up, man.
It's so sad.
So if anything, I mean, including stars convincingly in the 1969 film, technology would have been super hard.
Mm-hmm.
That have to get them correct in terms of constellations and positions. You know, there's a lot of people that pay attention to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
See, leaving them out entirely is actually what a hoaxer might do to avoid mistakes, but it also is what real physics demands. So absence of stars is not evidence of a hoax. It's really evidence of proper exposure.
Right.
Now, those mysterious shadows and lighting issues. So the claim was that some shadows aren't parallel, you know, implying multiple light sources. So the simple explanation is the moon's surface isn't flat like a billiard table. You know, it's uneven. It's got hilly terrain with rocks and little craters. Oh, such a cute little crater.
Oh.
So if you have a single light source like the sun at a low angle, shadows will fall over undulating ground and can appear to diverge or converge in a 2D photo due to perspective and terrain. Because of the differences,
right.
Those,
right, makes sense.
So it's the same as if you take a picture of telephone poles lined up, the shadows look like they meet at a point in the distance because of perspective. So also wide-angle camera lenses can distort straight lines near the edges of the frame. So Mythbusters actually also recreated a small-scale scene with a single light and uneven ground and managed to produce non-parallel shadows identical to the Apollo photos in question.
Go Mythbusters.
So they busted the myth. That's probably where they got their name, huh?
Probably.
As for objects and shadows being visible, that's thanks to the reflective light. And that's what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, because the moon's surface itself reflects sunlight and it's quite bright. So though gray, it still reflects a lot of light.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that light bounces into shadowed areas. So astronauts in shadow could be lit by sunlight reflected off the lunar surface. So, and same with the lunar module, or even the bright white spacesuits of their partner.
Oh, good point. Yeah,
so,
that's a good point.
So in photos, that's a shadow, a photo of a shadow. So in photos, you can still see detail in shadow. No need for studio fill lights. It's just physics. Light scatters off the moon ground and weakly illuminates the shadows.
Yeah.
So there's a famous Apollo image where Aldrin is in the limb's shadow, yet clearly visible. That's due to the light bouncing off the moon's surface. So it didn't shadow him completely.
Right.
So scratch that off as evidence of fakery. It actually would be hard in a studio to mimic that perfectly without CGI.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Ironically, the natural effect is much easier. Yeah, you'd have to light the ground.
And yeah, no kidding. It's gotta be real. So another myth tackled by those Mythbusters, right? And what about the footprint? Right? Footprint's interesting. How do you get a sharp footprint in dry lunar soil? Can you? Is it even possible? Well, the answer is absolutely yes. So it's called lunar regolith. I think that's how you say it, regolith. So it's a type of soil. It's not like beach sand. It's made of very fine, powdery dust with jagged grains. So no wind or any type of water to smooth them out. So the particles can interlock and hold shape. So the Mythbusters did an experiment in a vacuum chamber with replica moon dust. How you did that. And an astronaut boot. And they got a perfectly crisp footprint. I like that. So no moisture needed, just the unique texture of the lunar soil. So the well-defined footprints are completely plausible on the moon. They also remind us that in a vacuum, fine dust isn't blown away, right? Like you would typically see. And the lack of the atmosphere means nothing disturbed the print after it was made. So essentially it's there for eternity, right? If you think about it, unless the aliens go back and stomp all over it, But, so again, the conspiracy theory behind that doesn't really hold up, does it?
I guess not.
No. Hey, sorry to interrupt the show, folks, but Joey, have you ever tried Project Y's skincare products?
I have, man, and it's really something else. I mean, they've got two standout products. They have this wonderful anti-aging cream and a tripeptide eye serum. Both built for guys who want results without the hassles.
Yeah, the anti-aging cream is legit. Seriously, it smooths fine lines, firms up tired skin, and leaves that natural glow, without looking greasy or shiny, But it feels simple, but it's effective.
Yeah, and don't overlook the eye serum. I mean, it's packed with 3 powerful peptides. They tighten, firm, and reduce wrinkles around the eyes, leaving you looking sharp and energized.
Well, the best part is while you're investing in your own self-care, Project Y gives back, supporting women's causes like breast cancer research, domestic abuse advocacy, and access to education.
So what you're saying is when you use their skincare, you're not just taking care of yourself.
Right.
You're part of something even bigger.
Yes. Project Y. Men's skincare with substance. So for a limited time only, use promo code PROJECTY20 for 20% off their skincare.
Yeah, just visit www.projectynow.com.
Get yourself that 20% off.
Good stuff.
So now you got the idea of the no blast crater under the lunar module. So scientists and engineers have really explained this, that the lunar module descent was throttled very low at touchdown. So it wasn't blasting like your Harrier aircraft.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah,
though, actually.
But the moon's Earth, the moon's gravity is only 1/6 of the Earth's gravity. So you don't need as much thrust at landing, right? So the engine was wide set and didn't act like a focused blowtorch, digging a narrow hole. The exhaust plume in a vacuum actually fans out broadly because there's no air to shape it. So it's not like a jet blasting that sharp crater that you were talking about. It's more like gently blowing dust away over a wide area. So the astronauts did observe that the engine's exhaust blew away loose dust, clearing the immediate landing area down to the firmer rock and packed soil that's underneath it. Thus, the footprints settled on a relatively hard surface with a slight dust clearing, but no dramatic crater. We even watched in that video that when he was trying to dig his foot in, I think he only said he can go down 1/8 of an inch or something like that.
Didn't go very far.
No, it wasn't very far. So, and that's the point, that the moon soil could be pretty compacted below that top layer. So it's not going to gouge deep into the surface. So even NASA predicted that the lunar module might not make a deep crater, Plus, if it made a deep crater, the astronaut might have a problem stepping off or an unstable landing, if it was uneven.
Yeah.
And they brought up levelness a lot in that video, didn't they? Talking about being level. Yeah. So, it's fortunate that it didn't. The clean footpads, well, they weren't perfectly clean. There was some dust on them, but a lot of the dust was indeed blown away, for which is consistent with a real landing, not a contradiction, right? So in short, the lack of a dramatic blast crater isn't evidence of a fakery, as you say.
Fakery?
It's evidence that, physics and low gravity and vacuum, they behave in a certain way, right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, atmosphere means the dust gets dispersed outward and not held in a thick billowing cloud that digs a hole. Mm-hmm. So there are even high-speed footage analysis of the Apollo landings that show dust being pushed forward in a halo. And later astronauts actually photographed slight blast disturbances under the landers. So there was an effect, just not Hollywood style. Yeah. We did it Hollywood style. Sounds like Now to the technology, and could we do it in 1960 tech? I mean, those issues. So it's true the Apollo guidance computer had less computing power than a modern smartphone, but you don't necessarily need massive computing power to go to the moon.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you need those hidden numbers ladies, right? Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
So
hidden figures.
Hidden figures, that's what it is. Hidden numbers were the things we had in high school.
Yes.
Didn't want people to find our stash. No, I wasn't that kid. I wasn't. I promise.
I don't believe that you were.
No. So you need good engineering. I mean, and enough computing for guidance, which they had. The AGC had about 32K words of memory and a 1 megahertz processor. Oh, that's incredibly limited by today's standards, isn't it?
To try and go to the moon with this technology is highly illogical, Captain.
Yeah. But it was built to do the job of navigation and control, and it did it well. I mean, astronauts and mission control also manually handled lots of tasks. Let's remember we put satellites and even sent probes to other planets in the 60s and 70s with similar tech levels.
That's a great point.
Yeah. I mean, the physics doesn't demand microchips. It demands rocketry and physics know-how, which we had.
Yeah.
In fact, what was his name? The dude from Germany.
Heisenberg?
Yeah, Heisenberg. Well, he was one of them. I was thinking of the, never mind.
Einstein?
Project Paperclip. What was that?
Oh, Oppenheimer.
He was one of them. Yeah. No, I shouldn't have got off on that.
Who are you thinking of?
Never mind. I can't do this under pressure. Where did I get to? Okay, in fact, so I think I got to the which we had. So if I didn't,
we're going
to start right here.
Okay.
In fact, some argue faking all of this in 1960s film technology would have been harder in some ways than actually doing it. So think about making convincing zero gravity and low gravity footage in a studio back then. And you mentioned that while we were watching, watching that film, or the actual moonwalk, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson doing his thing. So I mean, no CGI there.
Yeah.
You'd have to use wires and slow motion. Mythbusters once again tried to replicate the moonwalk by filming in slow motion on Earth. And it didn't look quite right until they actually went on a reduced gravity airplane flight to mimic lunar gravity. So in kind of a free fall thing, huh? Right. So replicating the peculiar way astronauts move in 1/6 gravity would have been non-trivial to fake continuously.
Good point.
Meanwhile, NASA truly had built the enormous Saturn V rockets. Those definitely launched. Thousands watched thousands watched launches live. Where did they go, if not to the moon?
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. Popcorn?
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Breakfast of Champions.
Is there an in-flight movie?
Yeah. Apollo 13.
Some hoax proponents think they just orbited Earth, but then consider the live telemetry and tracking, which leads to more evidence. Independent tracking and third-party evidence.
Yes.
So during the Apollo mission, not only NASA, but other countries, their facilities and amateur radio operators track the spacecraft. For instance, the Jodrell Bank Observatory in England listened in on signals from Apollo 11's transceivers on the way to the moon. So Spanish, Australian, and other tracking stations around the world received the broadcast. NASA needed them for coverage as the Earth rotated.
Right.
So
good point. Yeah, that's true.
yeah. So which is why the famous first steps were relayed via stations in Australia.
Huh.
Even some ham radio enthusiasts directly picked up VHS signals from Apollo astronauts on the moon's surface.
That would have been cool.
Yeah. Those signals had the characteristic delay consistent with traveling 400,000 kilometers. Say if Apollo were just in low orbit, amateurs would have noticed the timing and directional inconsistencies. And so it just made me think, going back and watching what we watched today, the moon landing footage.
There was a delay.
So if it was broadcast to Australia and then relayed to us, there would be even more degrading, or whatever you want to call it, degradation in the quality of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and plus adding that much more in delay. So that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So if it were false, the USSR had every incentive to embarrass the U.S. Instead, they congratulated and even initially gave up their parallel moon program after Apollo 11 succeeded. So that's powerful indirect proof.
Yep.
Say the silence of the Soviets in exposing a hoax suggests there was no hoax to expose. Actually, just recently, a former head of Russia's space agency made noise about wanting proof of Apollo, but his own colleagues weren't amused. That speaks a lot too.
It does.
It seems more like modern political theater than genuine disbelief. Since the Soviet era, scientists certainly believed Apollo happened.
So, that's a good point. The Soviets tracking, we have records that the Soviet Space Transmission Corps tracked Apollo 11, right? And heard the transmissions from space. So they would have immediately known if the signals were coming from, say, near Earth orbit or not the moon. And the timing would have given it away. So they did not claim that any such discrepancy. In fact, 1970 Soviet Encyclopedia even listed Neil Armstrong's moon landing as a factual event. So international evidence aligns with the Apollo being real, right? But wait, there's more.
Oh, no way.
So there's physical evidence. What about the moon rocks, right? Apollo astronauts brought back 382 kilograms of moon rocks and soil. Matter of fact, when I did work at Arizona State University, they have what they call their Mars building. They actually have moon rocks in there.
They do.
They do. Yeah.
Can anybody go see them?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I think you can go and see them. So these samples have been studied by scientists all over the world for decades, not just NASA, but geologists in multiple countries. So the rock's composition, age, and other properties are distinct from Earth rock. For example, they contain no traces of water or weathering because the moon has no rain or wind, right? As we talked about earlier. So some have tiny impact craters from micrometeoroids. I like that, micrometeoroids, which don't happen on Earth.
They sound so cute.
So our atmosphere actually stops the micrometeors, which is interesting. So they also had a certain isotopic signatures matching what they'd expect from the lunar origin. Even the Soviet lunar robotic missions returned a few hundred grams of moon material, and those matched the Apollo samples. So if it was fake, NASA would have had to somehow acquire a huge amount of unique extraterrestrial rocks. But some conspiracy folks say they're meteorites from Antarctica. But, you know, the moon meteorites found on Earth are incredibly rare. They're incredibly rare. They're small and they have differences, like subtle geochemical clues eventually through Earth's atmosphere, right? So you can test for that. The Apollo samples are unequivocally lunar. Distributing fake rocks to labs worldwide without being exposed would be nearly impossible. That's a great point. So to date, scientists still publish papers on lunar samples. So that's a lot of evidence, you know.
Yeah, right. I mean, those moon rocks, it wouldn't have the, they wouldn't have been burnt coming into the atmosphere. That should be easy to test for. So yeah. Wow, I'm starting to really dig this even more. So moon rocks are real tangible evidence.
I agree.
Yeah. There's the famous story of a piece of moon rock being given to other countries. In one case, a rock given to a Dutch museum turned out to be petrified wood. Conspiracy folks just love that story.
I'm sure they do.
But it was an embarrassment due to a mix-up. Everybody makes mistakes.
Of course.
So I wouldn't know the difference myself. So it wasn't an official Apollo sample, just a misunderstanding.
Okay.
All the actual cataloged Apollo samples are well accounted for and studied. So the fake rock narrative just doesn't hold. Then we have the hardware that's been left on the moon. So there's a lot of that, you know. Each mission, you got the lunar module, and we can have some crawly things, don't we? I mean, there's a couple of
little rovers or whatever
some
they call
buggies.
them.
The rovers, experiment packages. We can still detect some of that up there today. So, I mean, notably Apollo 11, 14, 15 left retro reflectors, special mirrors on the moon. Observers on Earth regularly shoot lasers at those reflectors to measure the Earth-Moon distance. So laser ranging experiments.
That's cool.
Those reflectors work. You get a return signal precisely from the moon landing sites, which you wouldn't get if they weren't there.
They weren't there, exactly.
So the fact that we can bounce lasers off something man-made on the moon is hard to explain away as a hoax. So in Mythbusters, those great guys in that episode, they did exactly this. Fired a laser at the Apollo 15 site's retro reflector and detected the reflection, confirming that there's a man-placed mirror array up there on the moon.
On the moon.
On the moon. So the Soviets placed reflectors too. I mean, on their unmanned Lunokhod rovers. The Apollos were the first, though, and still are in use. Nice. So Apollo astronauts never went, who put those mirrors up there? The conspiracists has to then concede.
Maybe.
Okay, maybe some secret mission put them on unmanned robots. but now it's increasingly convoluted theory.
Well, and then there's the big proof that came out in the 2000s, right? High resolution lunar orbiter images of the Apollo landing sites. In 2009 onward, NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, LRO, started photographing the moon with super high res cameras from low orbit. It is taking detailed images of all the Apollo landing sites. You can actually see in these photos the descent stage of the lunar module sitting there, and even trails of disturbed soil when the astronauts walked or drove the rover around. So there's a great image of the Apollo 11 site. It shows a small dot at the base of the eagle and a faint dark path leading to where the instruments were placed. These are the astronaut footprints.
Wow.
Compressed regolith reflects the light differently, which I've seen that in photos, actually. So some images even show the discarded backpacks or scientific instrument packages as tiny dots. These aren't CGI. They've been taken by not only NASA, but other countries' probes as well. For example, China's Chang'e 2. Chang'e?
That sounds French.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So, for example, China's orbiter and India's orbiter repeatedly imaged Apollo sites through LROs, and they're the clearest. We have those images. Oh, we have those images on screen now for you to look at.
Aren't we just the best?
So check out these images right here. So you can literally trace when Neil and Buzz trekked around Tranquility Base. It's kind of mind blowing, right? It's like you got to say, yeah, they were there.
Yeah.
You know, unless one thinks NASA somehow edited the images, of course, in cooperation with foreign space agencies. This is the direct proof of human activity on the moon's surface, I would say. The best evidence we have, right?
I would say.
So
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You see that? That gives me chills. It's like gazing at an archaeological site on the moon. Those foot tracks are still there 50 plus years later, undisturbed. This directly answers a challenge conspiracists use to pose. Okay, why don't we point Hubble at the moon to see the lander? Hubble can't resolve such small objects, but LRO and other lunar orbiters with targeted imaging have now done it. So unless someone thinks NASA is faking those two, it's extremely strong evidence. And note, our LRO is running, what does that stand for again? Is running out of, they're local, huh?
Yep.
LRO is run out of Arizona State University.
Interesting.
With international teams involved.
See, I told you.
There's always an Arizona connection.
There is.
There is for everything. But not everything is just NASA's say so. Okay, independent researchers worldwide vouch for these findings. So we've covered flag, stars, shadows, footprints, craters, technology, radiation. We should explicitly debunk the Van Allen radiation thing.
Yes.
Okay. But we'll have to give it to you in a quick version. So Apollo astronauts passed through the Van Allen belts in about an hour. Okay. Received a manageable radiation dose. Their spacecraft had shielding, and they went during a quiet sun period. So the total dose was like a couple of chest x-rays, and that's not lethal. So they also avoided the thickest parts of the belts by a trajectory choice.
Okay.
And indeed, none of the astronauts suffered radiation sickness. NASA obviously studied the risk in advance. So radiation wasn't an insurmountable barrier, just a challenge that was mitigated.
Yeah, so the radiation argument is often exaggerated by conspiracists. So scientists knew about the Van Allen belt since around 1958, and wouldn't send humans if it would meant certain death, right? They wouldn't put that much money into a mission and kill everybody on it on purpose, I wouldn't think. But the fact that the astronauts lived for decades after is telling. If they got a deadly radiation dose, it never showed. There were even radiation detectors on board to monitor exposure, all within acceptable limits, which is interesting. So what about the theory that too many people would have had to keep a secret, right? There's more logical consideration. Apollo involved 400,000 people across the country working on various aspects, right? So the conspiracy theory claims that only a small number at the top faked it and the rest were duped. But that's kind of far-fetched, right? So consider the complexity. All the engineers who built the Saturn V, the command module, the lander, the tracking station crews, the sailors who recovered the capsule from the ocean. Are we saying it was all acting out a script? If it were fake, you need at least the astronauts, some mission control folks, and a bunch of studio technicians in on it. We had 50 plus years, and none of those supposed thousands of conspirators have leaked incontrovertible evidence or deathbed confessions. So typically big secrets are hard to keep, as one astronomer put it. How can you expect 400,000 people to keep their mouths shut for 50 years?
That'd be tough.
That's true. Look at with aliens, right?
Yeah.
It's implausible that in the extreme, people who couldn't keep Watergate a secret for a couple of years, and there was that was just a handful of men, right? If the moon landings were faked, it would actually be one of history's greatest magic tricks with zero whistleblowers. We find that pretty unlikely.
Indeed. I mean, in fact, plenty of those workers have profoundly shared detailed stories of their work on Apollo. None ever hinted, I saw something fishy. Instead, they speak of it as the highlight of their careers. And the astronauts themselves, they've vehemently denied the hoax claims. Buzz Aldrin even punched a guy. I saw that the other day. Watched that video. Bart Seabrill, a prominent hoax proponent, he got punched in the face in 2002 for accosting him and calling him a liar. So at the age of 72, I guess he was in pretty good shape, old Buzz. It was like, I'm not having it. And that dude gets punched in the face. It became a legendary moment. Buzz faced no charges because clearly the dude provoked him.
Right.
I mean, it shows how personal and offensive the hoax accusation is to people who know they went. Armstrong, before he passed, always stood by the mission's reality, though he often avoided public confrontation about it. These men are highly credible in most people's eyes. They were my heroes when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So anyway, the lack of any defection or slip up from them or their dozens of colleagues who went on later Apollo missions is a strong indicator it wasn't a fraud.
Yeah, for sure. So to sum up the evidence, the moon landings, all the evidence is very overwhelming, right? There's a lot to really kind of go through here and digest. So we have, rockets that were visibly observed launching, telemetry tracked by multiple nations. We have moon rocks in laboratories, human artifacts visible on the moon today, experiments like laser reflectors still functioning, consistent testimony from astronauts and mission personnel, a complete lack of credible whistleblowers, plus the scientific explanations for each anomaly are I think they're quite satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you gather all this up, the conspiracy claims start to look, pretty flimsy, One more fun nugget to throw out here. Sometimes conspiracy theorists say, well, why haven't we gone back? We lost the tech, all that garbly goop.
Mm-hmm.
So the truth is, it was a political and economic reason that we haven't sent people back since the
aliens told us not to.
They told us not to. Until now, with the new Artemis program ramping up, NASA didn't lose the knowledge. They archived it. But the Saturn V production lines were closed. Funds went to the shuttle program. It's like now we have the technology to go to the moon, and we're focused elsewhere. Doesn't mean it was fake. Actually, another country, China, is aiming to send people to the moon in the coming decade. So when they do, I wonder what the hoax theorists will say. Maybe they'll claim it's fake too, or you know, they might just expand the conspiracy worldwide. You know.
Yeah, I mean, some folks love to deny. I mean, I suspect anyway. But okay, we basically dismantled the conspiracy's evidence with quite a robust counter evidence and reasoning. As a viewer or listener, you might be thinking, all right, the hoax theory sounds less convincing now. However, we have to acknowledge facts alone don't always dissolve a conspiracy belief. There might be deeper reasons people get to those theories. Does it persist even now, over half a century later? Maybe. So after this long but fascinating journey through the moon landing conspiracy and back, where do we stand? Keith, how are you feeling about it all now? Did exploring the evidence and the theories change your view?
So, you know, honestly, I feel a little bit of a sense of relief, right? And, you know, going into this, I had doubts. You know, you and I talked about some of the doubts. You know, some of the rabbit holes, some of the videos that you sent me, you know, that I start to go, shit, was it really? It could have really been fake, you know? But, you know, looking at all the evidence, I would say I'm leaning more towards that the landing did in fact happen, especially watching that video again, you know? There's a lot of simple explanations for some of the weird stuff, you know, and I think we kind of debunked some of those things here. And I think the volume of proof that they have that we in fact did go to the moon, I think for me, just my opinion, kind of overshadows any doubts that I had. So for me, it's a myth busted. You know, the notion that it was all an enormous hoax and, you know, it's pretty much gone out the window for me. I think, like I said, I'm 90-10. I mean, there's still always that possibility, but you know, I think it's pretty sad if we have to tarnish something that was so incredible, something that put America on the map, I think, really. Mm-hmm. And, you know, like you said, look at from your vantage point of viewing it as an 11-year-old child, right? I mean, to me, I don't know. I'm still going 90-10. What do you think?
Yeah. You know, I'm right there with you.
Right.
I'd say I'm in that 90-10, maybe even 95-5 after
okay.
some of the stuff we went through today. You know, my heart always believed it was real. And now my head is fully back up with the facts. Yeah. I mean, it's been quite the ride examining both sides. I admit hearing the conspiracy claims stated so earnestly did make me think, I mean, could I have been fooled all this time?
Right.
But then systematically going through each one, it was like turning on the lights in a dark room full of spooky shadows. So suddenly the scary shapes are just coat racks and chairs and a lamp and, you know, in our case, a horizontal flagpole, a camera exposure setting, and some reflective moon dust. So the monsters were just tricks of light and perspective. So yeah, I feel reaffirmed that our giant leap for mankind was real and is something to be proud of. So one thing I'll carry forward is the importance of healthy skepticism. And healthy skepticism's limits.
Yeah, true.
So, I mean, it's good to question and investigate. We just did for almost an hour, but it's also good to conclude based on evidence. So we shouldn't get stuck in eternal nothing is true cynicism. Sometimes the government or big organizations do accomplish amazing things without a sinister plot.
Good point.
You know, the Apollo program might be one of the best examples of that. 400,000 people working together to do the unprecedented. I mean, wow.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely well said. I think it's okay to keep a little sense of wonder about mysteries and the what ifs, right? As long as we are able to distinguish from what the evidence actually shows. Like, I do find it fun to imagine that, Kubrick was secretly filming a moon movie or aliens watching us on the moon. Sure. It's a it's a fun sci-fi scenario, right? But I do think, I think that's actually what happened? No. I think after all, I think we can say that I don't believe in the conspiracy.
Exactly. And now that we've, begun making a movie ourselves, it's not an easy feat.
It's not.
I think it would be easier to go to the moon. So, I mean, yeah, it's kind of like enjoying a good sci-fi novel, but knowing reality is different. And reality in this case, the real moon landings, is pretty darn exciting and dramatic in its own right.
Yeah.
The risk those astronauts took, the ingenuity involved, it's not boring by any stretch.
No.
If anything, digging into this has given me a fresh appreciation for the men and women of Apollo. They pulled off something incredible under immense pressure.
Definitely. Yeah. And on that note, you got a huge respect for the Mythbusters, the scientists, even astronauts like Buzz. They've been fighting a good fight against misinformation for years, and sometimes literally with fists. They've shown a lot of patience and a commitment to truth. Now, we also recognize that not everyone watching will be fully convinced one way or the other, and that's fine. That's kind of what all our shows are about. So we're not here to tell you what to think. We're here to discuss, explore, and hopefully shed light. So we can put some truth behind it, I guess. But we want to hear what you think. We want to know your opinions. Are you a believer that of course we went to the moon? Duh. Or are you one of those skeptics that say, something's weird, man. I don't buy it. But did any of our facts or points that we brought to you sway you in one way or the other? Do you have any lingering questions, or even any other conspiracy angles we didn't cover? Right? Because I'm sure there's a lot of them out there when you look at social media. So let's keep the conversation going. Let's comment in the comments. Let's hit us up after, when this is finally posted, keep commenting on it, and we can continue that conversation. But, as always, please keep it respectful. We know the topic can get, pretty heated, and let's keep it cool, like the dark side of the moon.
Yeah. Yeah. Comment away, everybody. I mean, we want to, if we missed any evidence that you wanted to hear about, or, drop it in the comments and let us check on those claims. Because, we're still, like I said, I think I'm 95.5 at this point, but I could go back to 90.10. I don't know. Let's see what you got. And I hope you enjoyed this deep dive format. I mean, we've kind of changed things up here a little bit, and, we want to have topics that you guys want to hear about stuff too. So please let us know. I mean, if you want to hear more about aliens and pyramids and Area 51, the Bermuda Triangle, let's just drop them in the comment. Let us know what you want. And we'll do it because we enjoy this stuff.
Ladies, gentlemen, and beer lovers of all ages, it's time for the very first Truth About Beer and subscriber telethon. Yes, you heard right. Our goal? To reach 1,000 subscribers. That's the magic number that helps unlock new tools and powers for our channel, powers that let us keep serving up the cold, crisp, and well-produced content you've come to expect. But here's the catch. We can't do it without you. That's right, you, sitting there with that frosty beverage in hand. Hit that subscribe button and become part of the family. Think of it like this. For less than the cost of, actually, it costs you nothing. You can help us continue to explore beer, conspiracies, the paranormal, ancient mysteries, alternate realities, and who knows what other rabbit holes we'll stumble into after a pint or two. And just like the old telethons, we've got incentives. When you subscribe, you're not just supporting the show, you're joining the movement. You're helping Papa Joey and Keith keep the lights on, the pints poured, and the secret book of Anne's open for exploration. And most importantly, you're giving Brewella here a reason to keep showing up in style. Trust me, you don't want to see what happens if an AI gets cranky. So grab your phone, your laptop, your smart fridge, whatever connects to YouTube, and smash that subscribe button right now. Together, let's hit 1,000 subscribers and beyond. This is Brewella, signing off with a toast. May your beers be cold, your stories wild, and your Anns endless. Cheers.
Before we sign off, a quick toast. Here's to truth. Whether it's out there or up there on the moon. And here's to the spirit of exploration, both in space and knowledge. One giant gulp for mankind.
Cheers. Well, thanks for hanging out with us on this cosmic epic journey. Yeah, I think we've earned ourselves another round. Maybe some cocktails.
Tang cocktails.
Tang cocktails. Oh, man.
Oh, gosh. I haven't had Tang in years, man. Have you had Tang?
It's been a minute for me.
Do they still have Tang?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, supposedly the astronauts drink it.
Yeah, well, you can mix that with vodka. It probably tastes pretty good.
We might have to do that on another episode.
Man.
So on that note, thanks everybody for watching and listening. If you like today's video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more and share it with your both your conspiracy loving friends and your science loving friends. Let's get them talking to each other.
Yeah, of course.
Remember, at the end of the day, we all look at the same moon, the blue moon, that's sitting over there. No. Some see lives, some see legacy, but it's our moon. Until next time, this is Papa Joey
and Keith
signing off from the Truth About Beer and
keep asking those questions, right?
Seeking truth and loving beer.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome to the Truth About Beer.